Hey, this is John Fred Young from the band Blackstone Cherry, and you are listening to the Blog of Rock.
Welcome to the Blog of Rock, the podcast about rock stars and their stories. My name is Uwe, and I'm gonna take you backstage and present to you the stories behind your legends. Of course, we're talking about the music that connects us all, but also about the people behind it. What inspired and motivated them, how did they create their brand, and what kind of rockstar tips do they have for you outside? Hi guys! In the last newly produced episode before a short winter break, I introduce you this week to John Fred Young, the drummer for Blackstone Cherry from Kentucky, USA. This hard rock band has a lot of southern blood and most of all bourbon in their veins, and released one of my personal favorite albums of 2020 with The Human Condition. After their last signs of life were very bluesy, they have got the heavy guitarist out of the gun cabinet on this album, which they once again produced themselves. The whole album is also packed with lots of potential stadium anthems. Our digital talk had to be scheduled 3 times before it finally worked. The drummer had chatted too extensively with other journalists and missed our previous calls. You will soon get a better understanding of what I mean. But this time I called John Fred in the car while he was out shopping in his hometown in Edmonton, Kentucky, because he was running out of milk. There was already snow there, but my guest was wearing his winter jacket and a hat and was in a good mood despite the temperatures. In almost 40 years I've been doing interviews with musicians. I've rarely seen someone as talkative and funny as this guy here. Therefore, you get the whole conversation uncut in the XXL format. It's all about the new album The Human Condition, of course, but also about his new programming skills during the production, about American football, and his big wish for next year: German Bundesliga soccer live in the stadium. So we already got something in common. I wish you a nice entertainment with John Fred Young of Blackstone Cherry. Hey!
Hey, what's up, man? How are you?
It finally. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Let me start off by saying I'm so sorry about last week. I got on another interview, and I just kind of we started talking, and I don't know, man. It was a great interview, and it went on, and I thought, well, I've got another one at 2:00 my time, and I looked, and that interview was supposed to go 30 minutes, so I went way over. So I apologize. That's my fault.
It's all good because I'm doing this whole shit for almost 40 years doing interviews with artists, and it never happened that I missed only one interview, and with you I missed twice because the week before we there was another one scheduled. Yeah, but anyway, I'm happy to have you, John Fred.
I'm very excited to be here, and thank you.
So you're in the car, as I see.
I am. I'm actually in my snow suit here because in Kentucky it's not snowing compared to a lot of other places in the world that gets real snow, but we really for us we don't really get a lot of snow, but 2 to 3 inches is a massive snow for us.
That's right, yeah.
But I'll tell you, 2014 we had never really had a huge snow in Kentucky since maybe the mid 90s, and I was probably a small kid, and I think that maybe came 12 or 13 inches. But in 2014 I was actually home. We weren't touring, and it came this massive blizzard, so we had almost 30 inches of snow, and I did not have a vehicle that could really get out in the snow. I didn't have a 4-wheel drive, and so I was stuck. So I told myself, my wife and I just had our first child, our little girl. She was a baby, and I said, I'm never getting stuck, in a situation where I don't have a big 4-wheel drive truck, So the next year I went out and got one of these Toyota FJ Cruisers, and it looks like a turtle, and it can go anywhere. I mean, it's just an odd SUV, but the next year I was out on the road, and it came this massive snow in Kentucky again, and I didn't get out and play in the snow. So now it's just like back to this like little dust stuff, So.
So you're taking me around, but you're not driving. You're not taking me around.
I'm actually not on our farm right now. I'm in town, so I had to come to the big city to get some supplies. The milk, the bread, the toilet paper, all that.
That's good. See, I've got some Kentucky as well in my home.
You have some supplies.
Yeah. So I've got the JB Black and the Maker's Mark.
Makers.
Both from your home.
That's right. I'll tell you, it's about I'd say about 50 minutes to an hour from us. So we're in South Central Kentucky. Of course, we live in a town called Edmonton, very small town, and then the biggest town next to us is a place about 50 miles west called Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah.
And it's Kentucky's known for it's bourbon, it's horse racing, and hopefully it's rock and roll, because there's been some cool bands. I mean, we do have a really cool music scene in this state, and it's very vast across the genres. You've had bluegrass to rap to rock to country. I mean, we've had a lot of artists come out of the state over decades, and it's I don't know what it is. Maybe something's in the water, maybe something's in the bourbon, or the water that makes the bourbon over the limestone. I don't know.
So I don't know, but it's great to have you finally. And of course, we want to talk about the new album. Actually, it's not that new anymore, since we took some time after we finally got together, but it's still, The Human Condition is one of my favorite albums of this year. You had so many great anthems on it, and you recorded this album again somewhere in the woods.
Yes, we did. Hey, thank you very much for saying that, because we really worked hard on this record, and I'll tell you, man, we really, of all the albums we've made, I feel, and I think the other band guys would say this too, we really had no idea what we were doing when we went into the studio, because I think on Family Tree, which was such a fun album to make, it was to kind of sum that up in my own opinion, that was our just tribute to all the great 70s classic rock bands that we grew up on, fortunately enough, and from listening to our parents' stuff, because we're all 80s babies. We were born in the 80s, but that record was just I think we were in the mindset of like Tres Hombres, Toys in the Attic, I don't know, man. We were just in this ZZ Top, Skinner, Aerosmith,
Almonds,
Almonds, and 38 Special and Skinner, and all this stuff that just the 70s Thin Lizzy, and I think we went into that record just making that mindset of let's just go in and make a killer, badass Black Stone Cherry record, but let's just have it sound and feel like it came out of 1974, or 6 or something. So, and we toured. That record did really great for us. We toured, I think it was 300 and some shows off of that record from April 2018 until November, about the middle of November of 2019. So first time in the band's career in a long time, I think we were just burnt. I mean, we were not of each other, but just because we're a live touring band. I mean, we tour and tour. So I think we had toured so much, and honestly, at the end of last year, we were starting to actually get really sick, and from head colds, and just I don't know if we might have even had like the virus before everybody even knew it was here, you know? I mean, like, because I mean, a lot of us got this upper respiratory thing, and
Don't tell me
like,
the virus was originally from Kentucky.
no, that's I I hope not. I don't think so. But you know, I think during that month we were just so beat down. Chris was having some troubles with his voice, and we wrote 4 songs on the back of the bus, and we were just like, you know, instead of us trying to like just kill ourselves to try to write and write and write, let's take those 4 songs and let's after the last show of 2019, let's just rest. Let's go home, you know, have Christmas with the families, so Thanksgiving, Christmas. And we knew we were going to get in the studio by February, you know, middle of February. So we were like, let's just take a break, you know. So when we went down to John's studio, we really had those 4. And then, so we took about, like, I think 11 days to go through like what drum kit I was going to use, like what heads on the drum kit, cymbals, like mics. And I'll be honest with you, I had a great team working together on the drums on this record. And I've done records in the past, you know, that, man, we've got killer drum sounds, but on this one it was just really special. I had there was a great our on the road drum tech and percussionist, Jeff. He was there helping. A great buddy of ours, Mark, was helping on the drums. Great, like old school analog guy, tunes by feel, you know, instead of just listening. And a lot of knowledge there, a lot of knowledge. And then I got to give it up to our buddy Jordan, who mixed the record, and he just, man, he's a engineer wizard. And I think for the first time we spent so much time on like honing in an original, just unique drum sound. And you know, on the whole record, like every instrument, the bass, the guitars, you know, it was like we spent hours and hours dialing in just awesome tones. And it really, I mean, having a guy too like Jordan and Mark and Jeff, like it was great. I mean, this has always been a family thing for us. So like that team, man, was just like, man, they worked so hard, and we had such a great time. And we actually, to be honest with you, we recorded the record a little different. And it was kind of inspired. It was inspired by Jordan. He was like, you know, you guys go in and you know, all 4 of you guys go in a room and you cut live. And meaning that, you know, we all 4 play together, and then we keep the best drum track, you know, the performance, you know, so it's like a live drum track. And if there's anything that I mess up, and I mess up, so we can go back and just push in that little, or punch in that little part. But this one we did a little different. We laid down a like a scratch guitar track, and then once like Chris or Ben laid it down, I would go in by myself and play the drums to that scratch guitar track, and the guys would sit back in the control room. So for me, it was like getting a microscope in all the, you know, places that like maybe I could, you know, get by, you know, kind of like just, you know, oh yeah, it's good enough. This was like I had a microscope up my rear end, man, and it was like everything I did. But it was really good, because the guys got to sit there and like in their head, you know, what guitar parts make sense with what he's playing, and you know, what am I playing that might not make sense with this riff. And I would work harder to find that drum beat or that like hook that made sense. And I think I captured a lot of the ballistics of like my playing, the wild, crazy feels and stuff. But I was really determined to make the drums just like be air drums. I mean, everybody in the world, man, as soon as In the Air Tonight comes on, man, everybody's like do 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 bah, bah. You know, and I wanted that, you know, and I know the guys did too on their riffs, you know, and the same for like Chris's singing, you know. We've never been a band that went in the studio and said, man, everything on this record's got to be perfect, and it's got to be, formulated for like radio. But on this one, us producing it, obviously you can't blame the producer that's driving the $300,000 Mercedes. You got to take blame if it ain't right. It's on your ass. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, we tried really hard, and I'll tell you, it was really cool. We had this like just treasure chest of songs that had not been put on records before. Like, like every record you make, you have some songs that, maybe you wish would have went on that album, but it kind of was in a competition with another song that for some reason beat that song out to make the record. And it didn't mean that these songs we had that didn't make previous albums weren't amazing. It was just like, man, we had another one. And maybe like the previous label we were on, like that song, and thought it might do better for like, radio. But we kept these songs for years and years. And I'm talking about stuff that went back all the way to when before we ever had a record deal, sitting in the practice house as teenagers. There's a song on the record called Ride, which actually used to be called Wheels of Fire. And it's the really up-tempo one. And that was in 2004. So, I mean, we were just kids, and people, I've had people say, man, that song sounds like stuff off of Rock and Roll Tape, the album that you guys released like in high school, and I'm like, well, there's a reason for that, They're like, it kind of sounds like something like on your first album, but maybe before. So I'm like, that's cool, and there's songs that, we had written going into Folklore and Superstition. There's stuff that didn't make that record. There's stuff that didn't make Devil, Magic Mountain, so on. And it was just time where, we opened that box, and this is stuff that, like, on days off on the road, like when we're touring, throw up a Bluetooth speaker, like somebody's like, man, let's listen to, like, I don't know, something. And then somebody's like, hey, let's go through the chest. Let's listen to some of these older songs. And we always do. And we felt really connected to those songs. And we didn't ever consider them B-sides. They weren't throwaway songs. So, man, we opened it up, got in the studio, started listening to them. And I think we had maybe 12 or 13 songs. And I think 8, maybe, if I'm not wrong, maybe 8 or 9 of those songs made the actual record. And, you sit back and you go, okay, how do songs from different time periods, as you grow as a human and a musician, how do those songs all fit together? Because they're from so many different time periods of like your emotional journey, you're playing, like, I played like on the demo in 2005, like I played that way different than I would now. So you have to adapt those things, like when you get in the studio and you keep the stuff that was just, epic, and then you rewrite stuff. And I remember we actually great again was an old song that we basically kept the bridge and I think the verse, and then we rewrote the chorus, and I think even the intro and outro lick and stuff in the studio. So we're just a big hodgepodge of stuff, man. And I'm and you know what? At the end of the day, like, you listen, when we were done, getting our track listing for the album, you look at these songs and you listen to them, and our fear was like, oh man, I hope they all work together. I hope they all, fit and tell a story as one sonic picture, a landscape of this album. And they did. And that's what's so magical, and you're like, wow, this stuff, it still holds up in the song. At the core of everything, the song still holds up, the meaning and the playing, and being able to, revise those some to make them all work together. We got really lucky, and I'm glad, man.
What I like on the album is that you have included, even with these, let's say, older compositions, you added so many new anthems to the Black Stone Cherry history. And the crazy thing is, you start off this album with also a track which I've read that it's not that new, but of course it has a certain kind of new topic, which is ringing in my head. You're talking about a disease, but it's, of course, it was not about COVID, but which kind of disease did it meant? Because I read this track was originally 4 years ago. And was it a virus which was a human virus, so to say?
No, that song, that's a creepy song, because we people, I know they're not going to believe us, because it's one of those things where it lines up too perfect, and you can't, it's weird, man. We wrote that song in 2000, I want to say the end of maybe 16, maybe the end of 16. And yeah, we were just like, I had this melody in my head, and I was, no pun intended, but I was walking back to the bus. And I think we had like maybe 20 minutes until we went on stage. We were playing somewhere, and I told Chris had his rig in the back of the bus. He was recording stuff, and I was like, dude, I got this melody and I got some words, but I have nothing else. And I started singing the rhythm, and I just liked it, man, because it felt like an old, like, deep South, like church, I don't know, like stomp type of melody. And I have, when I grew up, man, my dad turned me on to a lot of Motown stuff, a lot of blues stuff, and I just kind of, anything, I guess, that I get in my head, it's coming from that, I don't know, Otis, Sam Cooke, Percy Sledge, like the old blues stuff like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. And Chris was like, I thought maybe this is stupid, silly. And Chris was like, no, dude. He's like, that's great, man. He's like, let me throw that down. I'll sing it. And he started coming up with some words, and the other guys came back, and I think we worked on it like maybe 10 minutes, and may have even been late to stage, but like, and stuff like that happens, and it was kind of an idea, and we put it on, kind of in the vault. And I think maybe we even thought about doing it for Family Tree, but we didn't, I don't know, like, the words were there, this whole skeleton was there, but it kind of, it's like songs get in headbutt matches, man, and one wins, and I think there's a reason for it. There's like, if that song had came out on Family Tree, it wouldn't have meant anything. It would have been a great song.
Perfect time. No, it's perfect timing. Yeah. We're gonna hear this track all day on German rock radio. Radio Bob is one of the favorite music radio stations here in Germany, and I hear it all day long. It's a great anthem.
Oh man, that's awesome. Thank you.
Another track which I really like on the album is Again.
This is a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah, Again is, like, that was, I was saying that song was an older song that we had. And actually my dad, Richard, who plays with the Kentucky Headhunters, we wrote that song together 2008. And it was a great song, but it was one that did sound dated. Just some stuff does. And so we took a lot of the parts out of it, the riffs and the bridge, and I think the verse, and we rewrote this massive monster chorus to it, and I think having Jordan Westfall is his name. And what, he's going to be one of those guys, man. He's going to be a Chris Lord-Alge. He's going to be a Bob Rock. He's going to be one of those dudes. And I hope he just still talks to us and sends us Christmas cards one day, because he's we're very fortunate to have found him. A great bunch of friends of ours, a band here in America called Shaman's Harvest, killer band. If you've never heard of them, check them out. They were great friends, and he started coming out and doing some live monitors, doing our in-ear monitors and stuff for us on tour. And we found out how just he would play stuff, that he had recorded back in St. Louis. And we were just like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, we kind of like, hey, dude, you want to, engineer our record? And he was excited. So, back to the song Again, on that deal, we had these ideas, and he helped us just really grab those ideas and make them make them fit, tangible, to be able to do like the intro of, the first chorus of Again, like where everything drops out and there's this, massive bass drum that just has like this crazy, delay on it. And the boom, 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 like I had wanted to do stuff like that, like, production, on a record. But I think we don't, we're really stripped back, as a rock band. Like we go on stage, we plug in. There's not a lot of like bells and whistles as far as, we don't have we don't have any backing tracks. There's not anything you hear. It's always on stage. So in that context, you're always wondering, like, okay, when you make a record, you can get carried away. You can put stuff in there that's like, oh man, dude, like let's put like 15 synth parts on this song in the background to make it, have that. But you always wonder, like, how does that translate live? And are people going to be disappointed sonically that they don't hear those things live that you have on your record? But we always say, it's like, man, a record is a record, and everything that goes into that, you're in that headspace, and you're in the studio, and why not use things to your advantage? Maybe you can't recreate that live, but I'd rather find a creative way to do that live, and still have the same like sound and the playing. But live and recording are so different. I think I don't think people expect to come to a concert and hear every single thing, perfect. Like that's not rock and roll, man. Like rock and roll should be spontaneous and dangerous and fun. So for us, like we don't get too carried away in the studio with stuff we can't reproduce. But we do take advantage of the situation of having the ability to add, counter melodies and parts that, are crazy. And I'll tell you one thing on this record that was pretty remarkable for all of us. As I was saying back in November, Chris started feeling like his throat was going out, and it was, and he was pushing through. He's a monster. He just goes out. It doesn't matter what's going on. He's going to go deliver, and, sure enough, he got home. He's like, guys, I'm going to go check my voice out, see what's going on, be proactive about it. And he went in, and the doctor said, you have, a callus on your vocal cord. It's just from overuse, from just being Chris, man, pushing and pushing, So, he said, it's no big deal. This is like it's a minor surgery. We can take care of this. He said, I've done it 1,000 times, with singers. So we all were very optimistic. Chris was very positive, but on the other hand, going in to do a record in 3-4 weeks, Chris was, had his date to go have his surgery. So we were we were a little like, oh gosh, but he had the surgery, and I think he was on vocal rest for maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks. So we started drums, and Chris is in there. He can't talk, he's like doing the hand signals, and he's like clapping to get our attention. But the first day Chris stepped up to do a vocal, I think every one of us were, had this great, like positive, man, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. But, obviously, like in all truth, we're sitting there going, and he was too, but we had a positive outlook. And I'll tell you, he stepped up to the mic, and it was like he was 22 again. His voice was so clear, and he still had that grit, that Chris tone, that character, that soulful blues, just beast Chris voice. But it was like this refreshed clarity in his voice. Like it took 10 years or 12 years off his age,
So like a computer reset.
It's like computer reset, man. And I'll tell you, he gained an octave, and he also gained a falsetto, like a head voice that he'd never been able to have. And I think, when you don't really think about it, but like vocal cords are so, they're mesmerizing. Like the human vocal cord, it's extremely delicate, but it's in nature, it's like, when you look at it through like a scope, it's two pieces of skin, and like if one of them gets just a little bit damaged, or worn, it can really change the whole spectrum of your voice, the tonal quality. And Chris was like, I mean, it was, it was kind of like an emotional moment almost, for everybody, because man, he walked up there and just, it was like, whoa, dude. So I'm totally just, everybody is, but we were beyond thrilled. And he sang he sang his face off on this record. I mean, really did. And, he and Chris and I have been friends since kindergarten. So like 5 years old, man, when we met each other, and we've been friends ever since. And in school, we played football together. And like, so, and all four of us, we're brothers, and we've been, golly, we've been through challenges, we've been through hurdles, and on this big journey. But it's always been the four of us, man. And for going on, like, next year as a band, it'll be 20 years. So I know the virus is a pain, man. It's like, it's really stifled, especially our industry. Like, I mean, all industries, but with live touring, you can't, we've done one home show that was incredible. We had a field out by a park.
I've seen the video. It would look great.
You see the video?
Yeah, look great. Yeah, tell me about this. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, so we normally do a Christmas show every 2 years here at home, and we love doing that because it allows us to put the album out and then go and like really get to reconnect with all of our family, because everybody's kin around here anyway. Everybody's related. So it's like, it's great. We have a theater, the Plaza Theater here in Glasgow, Kentucky. That's, it's been here for decades. Beautiful place. So we do that every 2 years, and we donate to the Boys and Girls Club and our local animal shelter and stuff. And it's really fun. And we were bummed, because we thought, well, I think maybe middle of this year, when stuff was still crazy, we thought, well, maybe by December of this year, or November, everybody will, it'll die down. It'll get, under control. We can have those shows. But I think by like August, we were still like, I don't know if this is going to happen or not, for the safety of everybody. And I think so. My dad's band, the Kentucky Headhunters, did a show here in Glasgow. Then Glasgow is the town Ben lives in. So like, they have the Walmart, they have like the movie theater, they have like, where Chris and I live is in Edmonton, and we're a smaller town. So we hail from Edmonton, but I mean, Glasgow's our home too. So we're 10 miles away. So I mean, these two towns have been, our home. And the Headhunters did a show over here, did a drive-in. So at our hospital here in town, they have a huge, massive parking lot. So back in, it was the 1st of October, the Heads did the show. It was a drive-in. You pull up with your car. You have one parking spot, like to the right of your car, that your family can get out and have the lawn chairs, and everybody's drinking their beer, like in, like containers, and that went great. They had like, I think it was like 400 to 500 cars, for this Headhunter show. Of course, the Heads went out and killed it. They did, and Ben and I actually got up and jammed with them on stage on a song. So we hadn't played since February. So I mean, for us, that was really cool. But I remember the chief of police came up to us, and she was like, "You guys want to do this show like this, but next month?" And we were like, "Yeah, absolutely." She's like, "Well, we'll make it work." So they started working with the city, and we did it at like I was saying, this park. And man, we had, it was you couldn't pull your vehicles into the park, but you could. They marked off sections in the grass, like, with the spray paint, and everybody came. It was a great success. We were fighting weather. It was raining terribly, but man, it stopped for, long enough for us to go on and play. And it was a really great feeling, even though we didn't get to do our charity Christmas shows, we normally do every 2 years here at the theater. It was really great. We had like 1,500 people, and everybody, everybody was cool, man. Wore their masks, stayed apart, it was good.
At
So
least you could have celebrated the release of the new album a bit.
Yes, exactly. And that's something that it was such a bummer, because we have like, if we had been in between albums, in between the cycles, and I don't think it would have still been, a bummer. But I think with us releasing this new album and everybody getting so pumped, it's like, you can't tour, that's what we do. It's in our blood, to go tour. But I think too, like, something that and we all, everybody in the world, no matter what you're doing, if you're playing music or it doesn't matter, but everybody's having to adapt and overcome and figure out a way to make this work, and it is hard. It's really hard. But, I think that with people, trying to be, safe and cautious and staying home, I think what's happened is a lot of people have really started, just from the nature of being in their home, they've went into their album collection. They've downloaded new music. They have, spent more time, like, kind of, I mean, I know this sounds like, like headspace, but it's almost like people have had more time to reflect on their life, their hobbies, their family. I mean, for me, I don't, like I told somebody the other day, I don't want to look at 2020 as just like, like I don't know, man, this horrible. Yes, it's been horrible. People have died from the virus, and I hate that. It's been very hard. It's been very hard on financially, on businesses, on industries. But I think that, I have 3 little girls, and we just had our third little girl born in August. So I mean, for me personally, like, I've loved being home and being with my kids, and like watching that day in and day out, like, them grow and, learn different things. And I've been home to be able to, really be involved in, and, being a musician. I mean, getting to do what we do, like, man, none of us take that for granted, because we are so lucky. 4 dudes from the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're super proud where we're from. We got more cows than we do people, but, I think it's a testament to, like, where we're from, small town America. If you put your mind to something and you work really hard and just stay after it and don't give up, like, you can, that law of attraction, you can do what you want to do. Just keep hammering it. But I never want to take what we have for granted. But it has been really nice to be able to be home and spend time with family. I will say, like, it is an adjustment for a musician that's also like a parent, because you're gone for a month and you come in and it's like you're home maybe like 4 or 5 days, and you get, like, you're trying to cram everything, like mow the yard, take all the trash out, clean the house, like, spend time with your kids and your family, go see all your relatives. And now it's it's reversed. Like, now it's like you have all this time home, but you may have one show, like, and I mean, honestly, the last time we played this year, before we did our home show, it was February 15th, and we played the Dallas Cowboys football stadium in Texas. 80,000 people. We played, we joined up with the PBR here in America, the Pro Bull Riding Association, and we did their World Series Cup. Finalists from all over the world come and ride, and they ride these bulls. And, like, man, that was, I don't know, being a kid liking football, in America, like, it's like, dang, dude, playing the Dallas Cowboys stadium is awesome. And then you go home, you're like, yeah, we got all these dates. And then it's like, well, we had an album. You're making an album, at the end of February. And then, like, everything just goes, nope, you're done. So now we're on that reverse, like, we're home, home. And then, like, it's like, can we go play this one show this month, or maybe like one show every 3 months, but we're just taking it as it comes, man.
So what's
Trying
your
to keep that
favorite?
positive outlook.
So what's your favorite NFL team when we're talking about football?
Well, when I was a kid, I was a huge Packers fan. But before that, I was a Cowboys fan. Now, I played Chris and I both played like little league football, and I loved football, man. I was into it. And then I got in like middle school, like before you get into your high school years, and I got really into music. I was in school band, and Chris was in school band. Like Chris played Chris actually, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Chris played saxophone. So I played drums, and we were in band together, friends, and then I think we both kind of like were. I did a talent show in middle school. I brought my uncle's drums, like one of his kids, to school, and I went up on stage and just played a bunch of massive racket, and it was horrible. I don't even know what it was, but Chris came up to me after the talent show, and he was like, man, my dad is going to get me a guitar this summer. And he's like, man, if you want to, he's like, you and I, we should go down to your dad and uncle's practice house on the farm. And I'll bring my guitar, and you can get one of your uncle's drum kits. That was the start. Like, we were 13 years old, and, man, it was I think for both of us, like playing little league football was done, or middle school football. And it was like school was done, and like everything we would go to school to just, go to school, and hang with each other and, smoke cigarettes in the bathroom. But and I'll tell you, Chris is a highly, highly intelligent human being. He was actually if you need some like numbers really, really quick, Chris is a math wizard, like crazy. And I think, we both figured out, I think, like our freshman year in high school, that we wanted to rock, man. And John had moved up from Florida, and in 2000, and that's when Chris and I were freshmen in high school, and John was in band too. So he was, this Florida kid that came up to, the woods in Kentucky, and we met John, and he played guitar. And so he and Chris and I started playing, and, we met Ben the next year. We were having a little get together, a little jam session, and he came over with a buddy of ours, and yeah, that was Blackstone Cherry. June 4th, 2001, Chris's 16th birthday, and it was just the four of us from that day forward. And yeah, I mean, going back to your question, like sports, all of us love football. Ben's a basketball fan. Ben likes, he's really big University of Kentucky Wildcats basketball. They've had, like, in America, Kentucky's basketball team's always been just like killer, great basketball team. On days on the road, like, man, there's been numerous times where we try to go find a baseball game to go to, but I'll tell you, I've never yet, and I want to so bad. I want to go to a European football game. I know we call it soccer, but I've never been to one. And I mean, we were like, man, last year we did that Alice Cooper tour. That was one of the greatest tours we've ever done. I mean, let me say this about Alice Cooper. To be in his 70s, to go up night after night and just like, dude, put on a absolute rock and roll. Can't get any more pro level, just legacy badass. I'm telling you, man, that show, like, and all the players in the band, like, dude, like Nina, Tommy, Glenn, Roxy, all of them, dude, killer players. Chuck, bass player, and like every great people. We got to go to dinner one night with Alice, the whole crew. I mean, everybody from the drivers, the crew, everybody. And he took us out, and just one of the nicest human beings. I mean, I'm serious. When people say Alice Cooper is nice, that is an understatement. He is a genuine human being. Great guy, very sincere. Told us some killer stories of just him, in the I mean, he's rock and roll. he's a legend, you know? So it was really like amazingly just, you know, it was amazing for us to sit there and talk to him one-on-one and hang. And, you know, the crowds too, I think for us, like we've been touring in Europe and you know, throughout, you know, England and throughout Germany and Sweden, everywhere over there since 2007. And I think there was, like, for us, you know, we've done the huge festivals, you know, the small club shows. We've been so fortunate to play in so many places and play with huge arena bands like Def Leppard, Whitesnake, another bunch of world class human beings, great guys, Motorhead. Like we did the Nickelback tour in the UK. We did like all the Rock am Ring, Rock and Park festivals, Nova Rock, Download. I mean, Ramblin' Man. I think we thought that we had almost like reached a fan base that we had built, and that was like, you know, we would see it continue to grow some over the years. But you know, when we did the Alice tour, it opened our eyes that there are tons of people. We have like, and I don't mean this to sound egoed out or anything, but like there's tons of people that have no idea who we are. And that was an amazing feeling, because you get on the bus after playing the show, and like later that night after the show or the next day, people would be emailing us like on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and saying, dude, I'm a massive Alice Cooper fan. Never seen you guys, didn't know who you were, and you guys opened up and you killed it. You know, it was awesome. Like what a great show. Like, you know, you guys were the perfect opener for Alice Cooper. So that was a great feeling, because that was throughout Spain, Italy, France, Germany, up in Sweden. You know, we went Austria, we went everywhere. And it was like, so it goes, I guess too, it goes to show you, like when you have a band that luckily, thankfully, we have been able to tour in your all's part of the world, and I mean, people want to hear our music, and that is the greatest feeling in the world, because, you know, we still kind of float around like in this fairy tale of like, is this real? You know, because it is. We're still like huge fans of music, and we always try to be humble dudes and not like get the big head about anything. So I think that for us doing that tour showed us that when you think you've reached an audience, you may not have. So, and that's to any, I think that's like advice to any band or artist that's out there touring, or anybody doing anything creatively. You know, when you think you've kind of reached your audience and it might not, you might be tapped out. It's not. I mean, there's more people. So that was a great tour for us. And yeah, man, what a way to end a year last year.
Of course, we're going to hope that you come back with this kind of enthusiasm in the next year, and hopefully we're going to make it to a soccer match.
That's on my bucket list, you know. And sorry, I skip around so much, man. I'm sorry. Talking about like European football. I think it was in Frankfurt, where we might have had a day off before, and we parked our bus, and there was a match going on, and I don't know who it was between. Obviously, I think it was, you know, it was in Frankfurt, so I would say, you know, obviously your all's team and somebody, but man, that's the loudest thing I ever heard in my life. Like the energy coming out of those stadiums. I mean, it's like you can't describe that to somebody. And I've never sat through a game. So that's on my bucket list, man. I want to go to a professional European football game.
Let's try. I'm going to help you with this next time when you come around. So one question, John Fred, we talked about the pandemic a couple of times, but did you discover some new sides of yourself, new hobbies, new stuff you never did before, besides of listening to some old records?
Yes, actually, I'll tell you. So when we were making the record, we got to a point where we had about, I would think, maybe 4 to 5 days left on kind of our you know, projected studio time. And, you know, John built a killer studio in the woods. And man, we didn't like have to be out of there at a certain time because it's John's place, and it's very, relaxed. But I think that because the nature of the with the virus, Kentucky took some measures to shut everything down. Businesses, and obviously with you guys too over there, everybody was shutting down, trying to control this thing. But for us, we had about 4 or 5 days left, and we were like, yeah, we're going to have to shut down. So we got everything done. Luckily, we got all our tracking done, all the vocals. But when we got home, Jordan started, mixing this stuff and just rough mixing. And we were listening to tracks back, and there was a lot of stuff where, we were just like, man, there's something that needed to be here. Like we have buddies of ours who are incredible violin, cello players. Like there's a guy in Bowling Green, incredible, Chris Carmichael, who's I think he's got a Grammy. So I mean, like we wanted to have guys like that come in and play. Buddies of ours who are amazing, organ players, like B3 and Worley guys. We've got great friends who are amazing female backup singers, here locally, church singers, the girls that sang on Kentucky. And we just couldn't do it, because it was scary. I mean, obviously, I mean, we're all sitting here going, wow, man, we can't we can't invite people down and what if they got it? What if we, spread it? So with that said, I listening back, I was like, guys, listen, I was like, I hear string parts on a couple songs and I hear piano parts, and everybody else was like, yeah, we do too, So I was like, look, I've got, in my spare time when I was home, like, I started working with a lot of virtual instruments. And for me, I've been a huge electronic music fan for years. And I think that was probably just kind of, you contribute that to the fact that I think in the early days when we would play in Germany and England and Scandinavia, we would like hit our last note, and it was like, okay, we're trying to pull our gear off stage, and then dude, there's a DJ coming up right behind. Like you couldn't get your gear off stage fast enough until the DJ was up there with the turntables and like the laptop. And for me, like, I guess because I'm a drummer and I love like bass guitar, and man, we would get our gear loaded and I would go back in and like just try to soak up this culture of electronic music that I had never been around. I knew, dude, I mean, like Nine Inch Nails, like stuff that, you would hear like electronic wise, like, yeah, I like that stuff. But then something bit me like in my back of my neck, and the culture, the nightlife of like that style of house music and trap and electronic and, the crazy acid stuff. And like, I loved it. I didn't know how to create it. I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Being a drummer, totally driven to it. So like over the years, I started collecting like analog synthesizers, like Juno 106s and weird drum machines, man, all kinds of weird stuff. So totally an organic, like heavy rock drummer, but like I love that stuff too, and dude, I don't limit anything. Like, I mean, I like polka, man. I love polka. Polka music is great. But I think in the everything kind of lined up, and I kind of took a leap of, going out on the diving board and saying, guys, I can do this. I know what I'm doing. I can program the strings. I can program the pianos. I can program the, Mellotron. I had no idea what I was doing. So the guys were like, yeah, great. And then, I got in there and I was like, oh God. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. But it was like through work, I worked for weeks, man, like night and day, like drank enough energy drinks and coffee and snooze, man, to just like put somebody in the hospital. And Jordan really helped me too over the phone. He was like, do this, like with like the technical side of like the programs, like how do you, and man, it came out like I really learned a lot. I programmed the strings on When Angels Learn to Fly and If My Heart Had Wings and some of the synth stuff and the piano, the little piano parts and stuff. And like I've always been a piano player in the sense I don't consider myself a piano player, but I love to play. I'm not a professional at all, but as a writer to the band, contributing things, I'm a huge, massive Beatles fan. So like as a kid, we always had pianos in our house. Of course, my dad and uncle being the headhunters, guitars, drums. I was just drawn to stuff like that. But this year has taught me, like, you can do anything you want to if you put your mind to it and you just, man, hammer it. Like, hammer whatever you want to do. If it's building birdhouses, if it's doing woodworking, if it's, like, painting or, like, becoming a better parent or becoming a better musician or whatever, athlete, like, just, you can do it. You just got to put your mind to it. And it's shown me, like, through such a negative, like, you know, I don't mean a negative year. I know. I mean, there's a lot of like real things that have happened this year that have been very traumatic. I mean, a lot of people have lost their lives. Had friends of mine that have lost, family, and it's like, it sucks. There's nothing great about that. It's awful. And I think that as a human race, I think we all just have to really try to look at the glass half full. And try to be optimistic and just know that, we're going to get through this. And whatever my biggest like advice to anybody, and I've had to tell myself this, is this won't be like this forever. It won't.
No.
It might be like this for a while, and when I say, well, I don't know, hell, it may be another year. I don't know. But we I think the best thing we can do as human beings is be, number one, kind to each other, be supportive, try to understand everybody's situation, even if you've never walked in their shoes, and just try to, like, man, just be a better human being, be a better leader, be a better dad, mom, be inspiring to other people. And I think that, like, that's what's, I think, hard for music fans is and musicians too, is the outlet that we all have, the festivals, the sweaty 100-seat bar clubs, the arenas, the everything has been just taken away from us. That love of music. And but I'll tell you this, I've really realized that how therapeutic music is when you're not just hearing it, but you're actually listening to it. There's a difference. And I've been very guilty of, like, having like music, and I know what it is. Oh, it's a Thin Lizzy song. Oh, that's a Massive Attack song. That's a Zeppelin song. But, like, not sitting back and just living in that moment. I think this year is probably maybe going to help us, if we can, just like to live in the moment and enjoy our time with each other. And that's all the positive thoughts I've got.
Excellent last words. I really enjoyed our conversation. It was great. I could talk with you for hours, but
you too, man.
I'm thinking of we should do another one, as long as this situation will take longer, and you're gonna take me around through Kentucky to show me around, at least virtually. But for today, I'm gonna thank you for your time, and also for the time spending in your car, and all the best to you. Say hello to your friends.
I will. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I would love to do another chat with you anytime. Hit me up. And you guys stay safe over there. And thanks so much for supporting us and our music. And man, just, hey, love to everybody in your country. All right. Next time I'm coming to a football game.
you have enjoyed this episode, please follow my stories about rockstars at the podcast dealer of your trust so that you don't miss the next episode. You can get it as a free subscription from Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Deezer, SoundCloud, YouTube, and the podcast portal from Google. You can also listen to the stories that have been already published there, because there's new food in every week. And above all, tell your friends and share the good news on social media. Follow me also on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me under the Blog of Rock, and there you get more photos and videos about these episodes. Alright, then let's hear again next time. Until then, keep on rocking.